Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the Saudi Talk Show with Adam and Todd. Today, we're keeping it simple. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. So we discuss heat and cold exposure, training, weightlifting, nutrition, and everything else in between. I hope you enjoy.
Adam and Todd, ready to make a change in the heart of the desert where the sweat drips like rain. Talking fitness and coaching, finding strength in every stride. We'll pump up your motivation, take you on a wild ride. Fit Talk, here we go. It's time to get in the zone. Rocking and rolling will help you find your own.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Episode number 3 of the Saudi Fitness Talk Show. Today, we're going to be kissing. Kind of.
What?
Keep it simple, stupid, kiss. So we're going to talk, about lots of different things, different topics, and why it's good to keep things simple. Okay, so Adam,
Yeah.
earlier we discussed about heat and cold exposure.
Yeah, let's start with heat and cold.
How crazy it's getting. Yeah.
I think it's just getting more extreme, It's like people doing it as like a how tough am my competition? Like I'm the toughest of the tough.
Who's got the biggest?
Yeah. Cojones.
Cojones.
It's like I was just saying to you before, like before we started filming, it was just like there's a guy in Canada getting into the air temperature is about minus 45 with a wind chill factor of minus 53. And he has his ice tub outside and it's totally frozen. I think he's got like that much water in the bottom of it.
Yeah.
It's just frozen.
It's just ice. Yeah.
And, he gets in and he has a cup of tea with him as well, just so he doesn't freeze. But then by the end of it, his cup of tea like freezes or coffee or whatever it is. Like minus 53.
That's crazy.
And so he gets in and he smashes it with a sledgehammer, big ice. And it's like, he's talking. And it's like, it's day 200 and something of getting into ice baths every day. And it's like, why?
What does just like
2-degree
water feel like for him?
It's like
just be a
it's
bath.
just nothing.
It will feel hot.
But this is what he said. He said the air temperature feels worse than the water. The water feels warm.
That's crazy. Yeah,
It's
that's
just like,
ridiculous.
Why don't you just stand outside in your pants?
What's the whole point of this?
Do a cryo session, basically. Stand outside at minus 53 for 3 minutes. That's going to be harder than the water.
Yeah.
Because the water actually feels warm.
It feels better. Yeah.
And this is what he's saying is like, you've got these other guys done it for now a year and a half now, ice baths every day. He's in Detroit or something. All these, he's got 1 million followers now, fine. But like, everyone's obsessed with the cold water. You've got Joe Rogan who does it, all these guys, great. But I also think of it as like, from another point where it's like, actually, like with training, if you expose yourself to the same stress, say it's always 5-degree water or 3-degree water, whatever degree, it doesn't matter. If you expose yourself to the same stress over and over again, it gets easier and easier and easier and easier. And it's not as stressful on the body, or it doesn't have the same impact on the body or the benefits, or they get less and less and less and less.
You have to keep going lower and lower and lower until you end up like this.
But then water's frozen at 0.
Yeah. So where do you go?
So 1 or half a degree or 0.1 degree, but then it's still pretty much frozen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like there's a point. So actually for this guy, why don't you go stand outside?
Yeah.
In just your pants, no cup of warm tea in your hand.
Yeah.
And stand out in minus 53 degree with a wind chill, and you just stand there for 3 minutes like a cryo chamber, which is cryo chambers are minus 80.
Yeah.
That's and after 3 minutes that hurts.
Yeah.
4 minutes.
Not nice.
That because he sat in there for like 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Oh, it's nice.
Yeah. It gets too much, doesn't it? I think people go so far with it. But like you're saying, you probably should cycle it out. Yeah, you shouldn't just do it every single day forever. Because at some point, it's not having the same effect.
Yeah.
Or the effect it was having when you first started was maybe much better or greater, and especially from the mental side of it. You knew, to get in that cold water, it's going to be so tough because I'm not used to it and it's horrible. Especially the second time you've done it, but you know what it feels like. The second time is probably worse. You're like, oh man. But then by the 200th day, it's not even resilience training.
Well, that's it. I think because again, that's the amazing thing about the human body. It will adapt to anything. If you're a Muay Thai fighter and you start, it's part of the training. You start kicking trees.
Yeah,
just harden your shins or your fists, whatever it is. You know what I mean? You start kicking that palm tree.
Yeah.
And it bloody hurts. You cut all your shins, you're bruised, everything else. You're battered. It's horrendous. It takes you a week or so to recover from.
Yeah.
Eventually, probably, you see guys 5 years later, 10 years later, they can smash palm trees and actually break the palm tree, not their shins.
Yeah.
Their shins are the skin is adapted.
Yeah, just calloused.
The bones is more dense and thicker and calcified. Like everything is just, you can deal with it. Or punching, like that guy where I showed you, punching the palm tree. Like imagine like the first time, like his fist would have been just absolutely destroyed.
Just bleeding probably. Yeah.
But he's got to a point now where he can actually punch down trees.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Which is cool. But, and that's what I'm saying. Like, if you give your body any stress, temperature, weights, or any type of stress for long enough, it will adapt to it.
Definitely.
Gradually. Over time, it will. So then it doesn't become as hard. It's like when the first time you start weightlifting and you pick up a weight, you're like, oh my God, this is so heavy. Like, this is killing me. 50 kilos is like nearly impossible. It feels impossible. I can't lift that. Then you go like a year later and it's your warm up.
Yeah.
This is just like, because everything's adapted, your nervous system, your tendons, your ligaments, your muscles, everything. Yeah. To be able to tolerate that. So I think for me, it's the same with heat, with cold exposure. It shouldn't be there every day. Because I posted something the other day on Instagram, of a podcast, someone saying like basically just slating it and, all this other stuff. And I had so many reactions to it. People saying like, oh, I do it every day. Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? Or what's your view on it? And do you like it? And I had all these comments from people like friends and people, and they're like, I was like, no, I like cold water. I don't mind.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing it every day.
Yeah.
But I do it maybe once a week, if that. Yeah. Or if it's there, I go to the gym and I have time, I'll do it.
Why not? Yeah.
But it's not like I have to do cold water every day. And then you have like the other extreme of the morning routiners, because Joe Rogan does it as part of his morning routine. Yeah. Now everyone's doing cold water part of their morning routines. Like, Joe Rogan does the cold and he trains, but that works for him. That works for his life and stuff. Yeah. Some people are like, oh, I have to do cold water every day. And it's like, well, you don't always have to jump into freezing cold water. Yeah. Like, why don't you just sometimes even just take a cold shower sometimes? If you're in the shower, just turn it cold or a little bit cold and it's a bit chilly. Yeah. Or really cold.
Well, I think it just comes down to
I find the cold showers sometimes even harder than the water.
It's horrible. Yeah.
Oh, it's just like, oh my God.
I just want a warm shower.
Yeah. It's, a cold shower, like, especially if you're in a cold, country or whatever where the water gets really, like in England, where the water gets really cold.
Yeah. But water doesn't get that cold.
Nah, really, summer, it's Saudi, there's no such thing as cold water.
No, it doesn't exist. Yeah.
It can't get, they have to, they have to make it, they have to try and use machines. We have heated water in the UK. Yeah. Here's like having things to heat it up, make it cold here.
Yeah, when your pipes are frozen back home, you're getting a cold shower.
In the water, man. That's horrible. It. Like, I was saying to someone the other day, it's like, you don't, why don't sometimes if you're in England, say, and it's in the winter, drive with your windows open in the car.
Yeah.
That's cold.
That sucks.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't have to be, I remember Mark Bell talking about it. It's like, you don't have to just be jumping into cold water all the time. Take a cold shower, expose yourself, get outside and be in the cold. Like, go for a walk in the cold.
Yeah.
Like, just that's enough.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the whole thing, is actually, it's the whole premise behind it is actually just getting outside.
Yeah.
So we need to spend more time outside and feel the environment, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, like here in Saudi when it's summer 48 degrees, just feel it.
Opposite end, yeah. Still, it is some kind of resilience.
Yeah.
When you go outside and it's 48 degrees.
Yeah, because it's not only the air temperature, you have the sun.
Yeah, man.
And that sun is strong.
It's
so
tough.
You're feeling the UV, like it's the infrared, like it's it makes it feel even hotter. And, so it's just like get outside more, expose yourself to the temperatures. Don't always have the air, AC on inside or in the car, or have the heating on. Like, just let yourself sometimes. You have to do it every day. Like, especially if you're working, you're in your suit and your tie and your shirt, and you're just sitting there, you're sitting there,
just drenched,
just to feel the heat
on the way to work.
Yeah, and you've just got a blue shirt that's now dark blue.
Turn up stinking.
Yeah, like, okay, look, you got to have common sense. Like, common sense though isn't always common practice, as they say.
Definitely not. Yeah.
But you don't have to. I think what it comes down to a lot of the time is that it's people trying to fight for control in their lives. They're trying to control something in their life because they don't have control in their life coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's what, from a psychological perspective, is like, often when things are out of control in your life, you try and find control elsewhere.
Yeah.
Whether from diet and dieting, restricting, fasting, cold, putting yourself through pain. It's like,
routines.
It's like self, what's it called? Yourself, sort of, chastise. No.
I'm not sure.
Whatever it is, you know, where you
Yeah.
call, you know, like, it's like you're giving yourself these really hard things or causing pain, so you forget about reality or
Yeah.
take yourself out of that experience.
Yeah.
Or you whether you're using drugs or alcohol, whatever it is, you're escaping. That's the word. You're escaping reality for that moment because when you jump into the cold, all you can think about is trying to survive.
It's how fucking cold it
And
is.
breathing and not everything. I remember when I was in France, we were walking, doing the Duke of Edinburgh thing, and it was like there was a stream, and we were in the summer. This was summer. It was warm. Down in the south of France, we're walking, and there's a nice stream. So we all just, with me and some of my friends, we got down to our boxes and we just, jumping in the river. And I remember jumping into that water, and I almost, when I jumped in, the first thing I wanted to do was just breathe in.
Yeah, the shock. Yeah,
the shock of the water, and I inhaled a little bit, but not a lot of water.
Not enough to drown.
Yeah, but I could have.
Yeah,
because I was just like, I could not believe how cold the water was. It was fresh mountain water. I thought, summer, it's hot outside. It's like 30 degrees. It's going to be
people die back then.
Just absolutely shocked the head out.
People die back on the south coast of England, like especially in the winter.
Yeah,
be drunk on a night out.
Yeah.
Go down to the beach,
fall into the rivers, jump off the bridges.
Yeah, jump off the bridges or jump in a river, it's a laugh, and then that's it. It's just
because it's stress.
Yeah,
and this is what again, is managing it. Like, a lot of cold and heat exposure is used for recovery purposes. In the modern world, when I was in Kazakhstan, so the weightlifters would use saunas. They never use cold, but they would use saunas, so extreme heat, but only once a week.
Yeah,
and they would do it the day before their heaviest session, so they'd save it because they knew it was a great recovery tool. To help recover the tendons, get blood flow into all the ligament, everything. And so they would do it the night before only, their max Friday, and then that was it.
Yeah,
but they weren't doing it every day. But that's for performance. And I talked to other guys, friends of mine who are in football and rugby, and again, they cycle it. They're not always doing it every day, every month, all season, all year round.
And when we swam, we would just do it before, like when you start to taper down.
Yeah,
you have like a 2-week taper. We'd do a few ice baths in that time, so just try and improve the recovery, and that would be it. Wouldn't do it in the season, very rarely. So just cycle throughout.
Because
the season.
again, it's like with training. If you just keep doing the same program, you do the same exercise over and over again, unless that is the skill you want to improve. Like, I want to be able to do a world record and sit in an ice bath.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's it.
Fine. Then you sit in it and you stay in as long as you can. You do it. You repeat the skill or chin up. So I want to get better at deadlift. I'm going to do deadlift every day because I want to get better at deadlifting. Then it's different. But in terms of its impact, why people that I like it because I don't do it frequently because I'm like, oh, this is going to be a hard thing to do to get in. And I imagine, I haven't done biopsies or measured stuff or whatever, but I know just getting into when I do it more frequently, I can stay in there longer.
Yeah,
and staying there for 6 minutes, 5 minutes. Like, oh, this is not too bad. I can have conversations in there. But initially, when I haven't done it for a while, and I go back in,
1 minute is hard.
I'm like, oh my god, it catches my breath, and the shock is more. And I just don't think it's necessary. And you think and I also think with a lot of people, we already have enough stress in our lives. Most people, general population, most people have a lot of stress in their lives. So adding more stress, more anxiety, especially when you're going to go jump into something. Like, I say to some clients who want to start doing it and get into it, I say, look, just start with what you think you could do. Like, if you just want to put your foot in there, just put your foot in.
Yeah.
Put your foot in cold water for a minute.
Yeah.
And then take it out.
Yeah. That's tough enough for them.
Yeah, because, a lot of, there's new technology about palm cooling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that, your feet, the soles of your feet, palms of your hands, and your face, kind of the gateways to your body, your core body temperature.
Yeah.
So
they give out heat and
exactly. So like one of my Austin, one of my mentors, he would get his athletes to hold it because he was in he's in the south of the US. It's hotter, warmer in the summer. Like, he would get his athletes to hold this device that would cool their palms down. So that, and they would improve their strength and recovery time and all this stuff. So I said that there's no shame, and even with clients, if you just want to put your foot in or both feet in, just dangle your feet in the cold water. That's going to cool your core body temperature down.
Especially if you're from Saudi, you're used to the heat. That's going to be pretty,
But that's it. So we were talking about before, should you be exposing yourself to the same temperature all year round? Like, should it always be 5-degree water? You know,
Probably not. Yeah.
because in nature or outside, if you just have a non-heated pool outside,
it's going to be a range.
That's it changes. Like we've got a pool here, it changes throughout the year.
Yeah.
In the winter, it's cold.
Yeah, the Saudi Fitness Talk Show headquarters. We have our own swimming pool. Yeah.
Of course, we're
international facility.
So and that's it. It's like, you know, so you have like it's colder in the winter and then it's warmer in the summer, but it still feels relatively cold because outside is 48 degrees.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it still feels cold, even though it's maybe 20 degrees the water.
Yeah,
it still feels cold because relative to the outdoor temperature, you know. So, and then again, like sea temperatures change. Air temperature changes. Like you shouldn't always be doing the same thing all the time because naturally, how our environment, our natural environment, not the artificial environment stay the same all the time. These lights, they just stay on for it, you know, until the bulb goes.
Yeah,
you know, we got air conditioning on, that will stay like that,
keeps temperature
going.
Good. Yeah,
19. Whereas we know, like, you know, temperature throughout the day changes.
Yeah,
you know, cooler in the morning, heats up by midday. You get the hottest time in the mid-afternoon, and then it gradually starts to cool down as the sun sets. So your body temperature should reflect that.
Yeah.
But if you're sitting indoors all the time and you're just exposed to, you know, this controlled temperature, controlled lighting, artificial air, artificial, your body doesn't adapt to anything. So sure, I think for me the most important thing, rather than all this extreme exposure and having it being so diligent with it, is just to, you know, if it's there, you do it. When you feel like it, you do it. And when you go into the water, or if you're gonna go in, just do what you feel like.
Yeah.
You know, it shouldn't be like you're preparing for war.
Some crazy protocol. Yeah.
You know, and then you know, you're doing all these crazy breath routines before you jump in the water, like basically overexciting yourself. You know, getting all this adrenaline pumping, getting amped up, basically. You know, with all the Wim Hof stuff or whatever, before you have to jump in. It's like, why? Why?
Yeah.
You know, like you should.
Yeah, what's it actually doing?
Yeah, I mean, sure, right. But we know the benefits.
Yeah.
Manager, blah, 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 whatever it is, but you know, and
well, look, I think that there's a few things. Like if you're training for a sport, it's a different conversation.
Absolutely,
completely different.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up.
But if you're just a general person, you're not going to competition, you're not doing this. There's no need to go crazy and try and amp your adrenaline up and do all this crazy stuff. You're just doing your training session.
You're just aging yourself faster.
You're getting more stress
and oxygen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oxygen.
Yeah,
there's the oxidative stress.
Yeah,
literally. The more oxygen you breathe in,
it's a poison.
It will
kill you eventually.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's what they don't understand. It's like, and it's also stress. Like if you're always stressed, look at animals. The prey animals are the most stressed animals because they're always like worrying about their lives and if they're going to get eaten today or not, and is it safe. They die earlier than the more predatory animals, or the ones who are less stressed. They've got better defense. You know, like turtle with their shells or whatever it is.
They're chilling.
Less predators around. They have, you know, in Ecuador, whatever it is. You know, they're less stressed. Stress is the biggest killer. It's the cause of everything, of most of our chronic illnesses and all these type of things. And because of whether it's the stress coming from our environments, artificial environments cause more stress, or the EMS, electrical, Wi-Fi, whatever it is, or stress from our diet, stress from our jobs, stress from our families and relationships, it all adds up.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're already a very stressed out person with whatever that stress, wherever that stress is coming from, you know, from a trauma, you know, even from your childhood that lingers, it's been there forever and that's still there and you haven't sorted that out, and you're adding all these other stresses on top, at some point it's going to spill out of the cup. We have a cup of stress. It's going to spill at some point.
Yeah.
And whatever that spilling is, you know what I mean?
So keeping it simple. Do what you can. Yeah,
just do what you can and do what you feel like. You know, I say to coaches and, you know, clients, it's like, just do what you can. You don't have to go straight into it straight away. Start with a foot. And then maybe next time you go up to your shins. Then you go up to your thighs. Then you go up to your hips and you're standing in it.
Yeah.
And then you get up to, that's the hardest bit, is your stomach. It's like, get him in there.
Getting past the balls is the hardest bit.
Yeah. You know, some people have that approach. They have to, you know, gradually walk, you know, step in. Some people like the approach of just
go for
jump in the deep end.
Yeah.
And just get in it and then jump out.
Yeah.
You know, some people just jump in and jump out.
Yeah.
So they spend like 2 seconds or a second in there and they get out and they go in the jacuzzi or something.
The next time it's 10 seconds, and then it's
10 seconds. You know, you don't have to just go straight into the extreme straight away. Start with 15-degree water, then do 12, then do 10, then do, you know, if you have that control system of a portable thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Or just jump, if you have a natural source of water, whether it's a pool, whether it's
the sea or the river.
Whatever it is, that's the temperature you have to deal with, and that will change year round.
Yeah. Because it sucks, actually. We were talking about Dubai last time.
Yeah.
Dubai in the summer, the sea is horrible. It's so hot.
Yeah. It's like
so
Jeddah.
hot. It's disgusting. It's like, 48 degrees outside, humid. And you go in the sea, think, oh, cool off. You go in, it's boiling hot. It's like a bath.
Yeah.
It feels worse.
That's it.
So
for me, I would try and, like, you know, strip back to like pre-industrial area of like what would be like because you know our genetics haven't changed from 200 years ago.
Yeah,
they're still the same.
Definitely not.
You know, like our bodies are still the same as they were 200 years ago. Like our genes don't change that quickly. You know, so it's like, what would we be exposed to? And you think like 200 years is what, maybe 6 generations ago? It's not that long ago.
No.
So like it's only a couple of lines of people.
Yeah.
You know, of our ancestors. It's not that far. So we haven't like, oh, we're all, you know, modern and different now. We don't change at the same rate as technology does. So like back then, our bodies wouldn't have been exposed to, you know, all this artificial stuff, but then also the same, we'd have been more in touch with nature and the seasons and all this other stuff. We wouldn't have had cold. It's like here in Riyadh now, like it's cool in the winter and it's bloody hot in the summer.
Yeah.
But it's not bloody hot all year round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then if you actually if you expose yourself to enough of the temperature, you're not always just sitting in air conditioning and dark rooms, your body would adapt to it if we allowed it. If we allowed it, because the temperatures fluctuate. You know, you have like a couple of cold days, and it goes warmer again, and it's a bit cooler, and then it goes up, and then it goes cooler again, and it's up, and then it goes, you know, so it gradually gets up to 48 degrees.
Yeah, it's not straight away.
It's not straight away.
Yeah.
It goes from 20 degrees, gradually over 6 months, it builds up to 48. So our bodies, if we allowed it, if we were outdoors all the time, would actually probably wouldn't think it's that hot.
Yeah, you'd be used to it by the time it got hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, need the AC. Especially for sleeping. Yeah.
Well, but that's it. But you think again, like we would probably be able to sleep in those 30-odd degree. When in the summer at night it gets down, you know, the coolest it gets is like 35.
Yeah.
But if we allowed it, and you know, weren't so soft and everything else, like we would actually probably just be able to sleep in it.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Because humans have lived here before all this.
Traveling through the deserts, crossing.
They slept in the deserts.
They would have been doing it. Yeah.
And sure, like actually natural environments are cooler than the hot, urban environments because of the concrete and the colors and everything else. But you know, so it is cooler out there compared to in the cities and stuff. But still, like it's still going to be 30-odd degrees. That's why I think, you know, you said about, you know, athletes, you know, but I think too many people think they are athletes.
Everyone thinks they're an athlete.
Everyone thinks they're an athlete. Don't you think? I think so many.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure trainers, you know, will be watching this show. You know, over the years, dealt with a lot of, you know, trainers, and so many of the trainers think they're athletes.
Yeah. Yeah, they hang on to it.
Yeah. And they're not really. You're not really an athlete.
No.
You're not a professional athlete.
No.
You may think you are, and you know, because I've been through it myself. You know, like, but you're not. Like, and sure, you like to do things like you have their activities, their Spartan events you like to do.
Yeah.
You like to do a competition in CrossFit or something like this. You know, you're not an actual professional athlete. No. You still probably have a job.
Yeah. Well, you're probably a coach or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You got all these things like, you know, when you're a professional athlete, it becomes as simple as I train, I eat, and I sleep. Yeah. Everything else is managed for me.
Nothing else. Yeah.
Everything. I've got physios, I've got coaches, I've got everything looked after me. And they even make me my food. Like everything's looked after. I just come, I train, I play, perform. That's it. Yeah. And that's when it's different. You know, and I think too many people get caught up in this whole optimization world and thinking they are top athletes.
Yeah.
And fair play if you are and you get to that level, great. But I think the majority of people just think like they are these athletes. And I think...
Well, it's like with the optimization thing, if you enjoy trying to optimize stuff, that's fine. But don't get dragged along with it just because other people are doing it. You think, oh, I need to... you know, eat at this certain time and do this certain thing in the morning and optimize everything because it's just going to stress you out.
It causes more stress. I've got to measure all my calories and weigh out all my food.
Yeah, it's stressful.
And it's not realistic, because as soon as you start having, I just think it's very selfish, it's egotistical, I feel it's weak, like in terms of, because all you start thinking about is yourself.
Yeah.
And like, I have to be perfect, I have to be optimal, and everyone else has to wait.
Yeah.
You
Because I've
know?
got my little
My thing, and that then maybe
protocols
destroys my relationships with girlfriends or wives or boyfriends, or your kids. I'm going to spend time on myself. So, and people say, well, I'm doing it because it's like the airplane analogy. I've got to put my oxygen mask on first. But it's like, but do you just want to be so self-absorbed your whole life?
Yes.
And then when you realize, actually, because no one thinks long term, it's like, actually, then when you're 50 years old and you've got no one around you,
you spent 30 years optimizing, and your life isn't optimal anymore.
then you have no relationships.
You're alone.
Your kids, if you have kids, they may hate you or whatever. Like, you haven't got great. You weren't there a lot of the time. I was doing everything for myself. But most of the time when you have kids, you start to realize, like, that's when you really realize, actually, there's more to life than just you.
Yeah. Just your morning routine.
Yeah, and then I think, we've talked about before, like, the kind of old school mentality.
Yeah.
I think of, like, when my grandparents and like what they went through, and with all the wars and moving continents, and like, especially from my dad's side, they got pushed around the world trying to escape, running from the Nazis and all this stuff. Like, they just got on with it.
Yeah.
They didn't overthink stuff.
It's definitely something to remember.
They were like, like, even not that far long ago in the amateur, like, yeah, sure, it's not optimal, but guys would smoke. They might go to the pub before a rugby game, have a pint or two, and then go play rugby.
Go play, yeah. Well, our hero, John Daly, he's got a great quote from him.
Exactly.
Nicotine plus caffeine equals protein.
Yeah, and he's a world record.
And he's also...
He had I don't know if he still does, but he had the world record longest drive.
I love
golf.
That. It's just everyone else is trying to be perfect and do all this stuff. He's got a cigarette in his mouth and he's driving balls
400 odd yards
and having a great time.
Yeah,
having a great time.
And he was still a professional golfer.
So
it was mid tables, and that's what I think I've talked about before on my YouTube channel, like the plateau of resilience. Is from when you study a lot of military history, and this book where I got this concept from. It was about training the elite in SAS, special forces. Like, there's never a perfect. Yes, I went to military school, but I never went into the military or did anything, but. A lot of my friends who went in, talking to them, and then you listen to like these like Jocko Willink and these guys who were in the army and served and all this, the Navy SEALs. There is never a perfect point.
No,
nothing is timed perfect.
You're never at 100%.
You're never at 100%.
Yeah.
You might have just done your leg day. In Iraq. You're stationed in Iraq. You just done a leg day with the lads, and you get a call. You got to go out.
Yeah.
Now we're under attack.
Yeah.
The base.
Go.
Oh, you're not gonna be like, oh, look, my legs. I just did legs. I can't squat down. Oh, my legs sore. I can't carry anything.
It's just not a thing. Yeah.
If you got to go use your legs, you got to go use your legs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I can't carry my weapons. I just did chest and biceps.
Yeah.
So what?
No one cares.
What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah. No
one cares. If your life is on the line, you got to go. No matter if you're sore as hell or you're just so tired, you got to pick up your weapon. You got to go. You know what I mean? And it's where like this whole because everything's so comfortable and convenient nowadays, like. Everything's just there, and we don't need to stress about things, and everything's taken care of. We just call for food. We call for this. We call, we do an app
from home.
Yeah, we don't have to move. And, I'm a bit hot. Let's turn it up. Turn it down a degree. So I think this whole optimization just feeds a lot of this mindset of just softness and weakness and just being like. Oh, someone's going to take care of it. Someone's going to do it for me.
Yeah.
I need, because I used to have the same mindset when I was training. I was, through a point, then I realized I'm just an idiot and I'm insane. I'm a moron.
You're a moron.
Yeah. You talk to my close friend who watched this, and I went through a period of not eating carbohydrates. I just the closest thing I came to carbohydrates was eating 3 blueberries. 2 years.
And you were worried about it.
Yeah, and I was stressed, and all this because when I started with Poliquin stuff, he was like no carbs, and he said if you are not 10%, you do not deserve carbohydrates. I was like, I'm not 10%. I've got to eat, not eat any carbohydrates. But then later I learned that was just his thing, just there's a mindset shift, stop eating so much crap and actually just start eating less carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And and all this sort of stuff. So it's again, going back, it's like you look at like something. I remember on Joe Rogan's show the other day, they talked about that guy. Who was it? He had the one eye.
Oh, that
he got
soldier.
shot in the face like 3
Yeah, he
times.
was shot in the face. He survived a plane crash.
He had one arm.
And he was like, had a pistol and a grenade, and he was throwing the grenade.
Fought in the Boer War.
Yeah, he did.
And then he
fought, stuff.
And then he was in the First World War, and then he fought in the Second World War.
Yeah.
Didn't he fight after that, or just no? Second World War, he was in his 60s.
Yeah, and he's just running.
And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go.
Yeah,
I want to fight.
Sign me
and
up.
by then, he had one eye,
Yeah.
one arm.
Yeah.
He used to load his revolver with his like he had one arm, load it with put the bullets in with his
and
teeth,
throw grenades,
Yeah, like that doesn't. Obviously, it's a different world, but like it's just the mindset you look at.
I think that with those kind of
it's just
stories,
like I don't care about me.
It's good to remember that
it's selfless. Like
there are people that can someone can actually do that.
Exactly.
You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But remember, if you don't, do your morning cold plunge, you'll be absolutely fine. Because he hasn't got an arm or an eye and he's been shot in the back of the head. And he's running over the trenches and going. Yeah. So you can do a lot of stuff, not optimized.
Yeah.
That's the thing to remember.
And this is why, look, my background is injury rehab. That's my thing. And look, I've had tons of injuries. But then when I'm training people, they're like, oh, I've been told not to do this. I can't do this. I shouldn't do this. And they're like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Eventually, you'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
But we're just going to regress it to what you can do for this movement. And then we're going to get up to it eventually. Yeah. But you'll be able to do dips again. Or you'll be able to, I had a guy who was told he dislocated his shoulders when he was 14 playing football or something like that. And then his doctor told him at the time, you should never play sports ever again.
It's just
he never played sports ever again. And he told you should, and then he was told then by a trainer later on, you should never do dips because your shoulder's going to dislocate, all this stuff. I've dislocated my shoulder 5 times and this one twice. Yeah, I can do dips with 70, 80 kilos.
Yeah, doing fine.
Fine.
Yeah.
Since my injuries.
Yeah. And
so when I started training him, and he's a friend of a friend, and I said, he's like 28 or 30 or 28, 29 when I saw him, and I was like, I said, I feel really sorry for you. I actually feel sad because you haven't played sports in 15 years. Because some moron told you never to play sports again.
It's ridiculous.
For a shoulder dislocation. What if I played tennis with my right arm? Not even play this arm.
Yeah,
I can play tennis, but he didn't do anything.
You have a lot of other joints.
He took it as gospel.
Yeah,
he just said I'm never going to play, sports, and he didn't play sports.
Well, you hear it from your doctor. It's kind of fair enough. You go, oh, shit, this guy, I've paid him or whatever to tell me what's up.
So I started training him and I said, right, we're going to do dips. He was terrified of dips.
Yeah,
but I did a load of other stuff. We worked on his extension and we worked on all these patterns to prep him. So then push-ups, but just shallow ones, and all this stuff. So eventually, when he did a dip, he could do the 5 dips.
Yeah.
About 2 months later, when psychologically I prepped him, because it was all in his head.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it with bands first. I put on the heaviest band I could find.
Yeah.
So basically, it flung him through the ceiling. You know what I mean?
He wasn't
so he could get into a dip.
Oh,
this feels nice.
He had to pull himself down.
Exactly. He had to pull himself into it, basically, and then he would slingshot himself out of it. And now he does dips as much as he wants. He's weighted.
That's good.
But again, it's and even going back to heat and cold, I've had even clients here very recently, telling me I've been told my doctor I can't go in the cold plunge. I can't go in the cold, and I can't go in the sauna either. I'm because they say, it might, shock and cause, and even when I've been in the cold water, I think it's a Saudi doctor thing, but when I've been in the cold plunge, with, and there's some guys walking past, my doctor's told me I shouldn't go in there. These are Saudi guys telling me this. I'm okay, so you're telling me you couldn't walk into the sauna for 30 seconds and walk back out and have a heart attack.
And you live in the desert. What are you talking about?
I was you telling me you couldn't even just stand in there for 10 seconds and come back out and start there? Yeah. You're telling me you can't do that? Well, the doctor said, it's, I'd have a heart attack and it's the extreme and it's not good for you. I said, you couldn't even put your finger in the water.
Yeah, impossible.
You couldn't even do that.
Yeah, you couldn't drink a cold drink.
Exactly. Your drinks are colder and changing your drinking ice, water more than just sticking your foot in.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
But that's why I just think it's just this whole mindset thing.
Yeah.
The lack of resilience, lack of just you don't actually have to go to the extreme, but we see it in exercise progressions, don't we?
Yeah.
It's like you don't always have to go from this to that exercise progression straight away.
Build up slow.
Micro progressions, little steps along the way. Lift the heel up, or you start taking this stability away. So, like, I think a big with all the modern day society that's been fed to us through all these media, channels. I know. Look, I respect Andrew Huberman, and I know you do as well. But I can't watch him.
Yeah, it's too different. It's too much.
I just can't. I feel like nauseous.
It for me, it like stresses me out. Listening, going, I can't keep track of everything he's said to do. In one episode. Let alone if you listen to him all the time.
Yeah.
If you laid out everything, all the advice that he's given. Yeah. I know he's kind of.
He's super knowledgeable.
He's super knowledgeable, and he understands
research,
that you don't have to do all this.
Everything.
He does sort of say that you don't have to do all this, obviously.
Yeah.
If you tried to do everything that's been recommended, you wouldn't be able to go to work. You just be spending your whole day I got to do this. I can't have coffee until an hour and a half after I wake up, and you wouldn't have
neurotic.
A life. Yeah, neurotic,
which is stressed.
You're
worried about everything.
And I'd like to see, like, maybe in a few years'
I missed
time,
out that. I forgot to do that this morning. It doesn't matter.
I wonder what, like, if anything will come out about, trying to, like, this whole thing of optimizing so far, that you're actually just getting more stressed out and being less productive and not doing anything. You're trying to optimize so much.
But we know high-end performance, the extreme performance and optimization is not healthy.
Yeah.
Health and performance are at opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Because the body is always trying to keep homeostasis, equilibrium, whatever you want to call it. It's trying to keep balanced the whole time. Whenever you jack up one hormone, other hormones have to counter it. Or blood sugar. This goes up, this has to go down.
Yeah.
It's like that with hormones. You see it on a hormonal level. You see it. Everything has to, whenever there's an opposite and equal reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basic laws of physics.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happens within the body because it's, how it's made up. And it's the same. If you really push things to an extreme, normally there's an injury or an illness that comes at the end of it, either acutely or chronically.
I was just thinking back when I swam, like, in the pool for 20 odd hours a week in a chlorinated, like, there's no air getting in. It's not good. That's not healthy.
No.
Maybe 5 hours a week of swimming would be pretty healthy.
Yeah. If you were swimming outdoors,
that's better. It'd be nice to get air. And you're not going crazy, but like 20 hours a week, hard. In the morning, getting up early, not sleeping enough, all this stuff. That wasn't for health. That was to try and compete and perform. It was something different. Then you have to stop after some point.
Yeah, so you look at, like, adaptation, process. You look at, like, periodization. It's about just forcing the body to adapt.
Yeah, to change.
And then you give it periods of rest.
Yeah.
Or deloads or whatever, thing. Because you're trying to build strength, muscle, your nervous systems basically really quickly.
Yeah.
Faster than it probably naturally would want to.
For a particular task.
For a task. For a time period.
Yeah.
It's like, right, we've got this amount of time, we're going to try and peak. So you go more extreme. It's like with dieting. If you want to drop weight really quickly, you do a more extreme cut.
Yeah. Pick a deadline and fuck it.
And then you say, right, I've got, if I want to do a really quick cut, I'm going to, instead of just dropping, 10% of my calories or, being in a 10% deficit or 20%, I'm going to drop 50%.
Yeah.
But you can't do that for a long period of time.
No.
You can do that for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you have to go back and do a maintenance.
Yeah.
But then some people just try and stay at 50% the whole time. But then they get ill.
Yeah.
They have thyroid issues, they have all this, and everything else, the consequences. So anything extreme is going to cause some problem later down the line. Illness, injury. So when I pushed, peaking for weightlifting competitions and all this sort of stuff. Actually, sometimes by that last week, I get injured. Because I pushed so much.
Yeah.
My body's so tired. And that is such a fine edge with high performance. Because you're trying to push your body to the absolute limit and find it just before something breaks.
Over.
Something tips and something breaks. But again, if you're just training, generally go slower. I generally
you can get like 80% of the benefit from just taking it a bit steadier, going a little bit easier.
Yep.
Still working hard. You're doing some hard sets. You're doing a bit of your cold. You're doing this.
Let's go back to your why, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Like now, I'm washed up. You're washed up. Me.
Yeah,
We're both washed up. Me. We're not training for anything in particular.
No.
But we're training. We still want to be strong and be able to be fit at some point. All this stuff. So it's like But then I'm thinking, like, I still want to be able to lift when I'm in my 60s, my 70s, my 80s, still be able to train, still be able to move, still be able to get up and off the ground.
Yeah.
You know, still be able to get on the floor with my kids, my grandkids, you know, all this sort of stuff. Like, have that be able to be like, you know, still do a couple of pull-ups and push-ups and still be like something that I can maintain for a long time, you know. So like, I'm not going to stress out if work gets a bit busy and I miss a session that day, or I only did 3 sessions this week compared to 4, or I'm like, and the same with diet, you know, like for me, main thing is water and protein.
Yeah.
That's it. But I didn't even protein. I don't even obsess about it. I just make sure I eat protein
in each meal.
meal.
Yeah.
Sometimes more, sometimes less. And that's about it. Because I know those 2 things are the most important out of everything else. Carbs and fats and micro, you know, whatever. Because I know, like, because hydration is the biggest thing, really. Like, with water mostly. And so many things are kicked off from that. Because you think of how many people are just so dehydrated. We live in Saudi. Like, water and protein. Those are the 2 things I think about. I don't think about the rest.
Yeah. Super simple. Good way to approach nutrition for most people.
Because, and what you find with most clients, you know, I was with a triathlete the other day.
Yeah.
Underhydrated, no protein in a diet.
Just underhydrated.
Yeah.
This is, oh man.
You know,
no protein.
Drinks maybe a litre a day.
Just eating beans.
Maybe a litre and a half at most.
It's crazy.
And especially triathlete, plus in Saudi. And so you're training outdoors.
The urine's like mustard.
I don't even want to know. I don't want to know.
It's just ridiculous, yeah.
My first step with nutrition is always keeping it simple. Start with water. Yeah. And I'm not even talking to you about anything else until we get you hydrated.
Yeah.
Because that will actually solve most issues.
Yeah.
From, you know, even gut issues can be caused. I've had, you know, gut issues from being dehydrated, you know, from just how you're, you know, being, and hydrated is not just water, it's also having, you know, magnesium, all the electrolytes.
Yeah.
You know, being optimally hydrated.
Optimally, be careful.
But being hydrated,
and
getting some electrolytes in. But for me, I don't use electrolyte powders. I just use salt.
Salt does the same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Guess what? Salt does the same thing as creatine, because creatine is a salt at the end of the day. It's the same. It has the same thing. And most people get a really good effect.
Water.
They get a really good effect from creatine, and they would get the same effect if they just ate more red meat or they had more salt in their diet.
Stan Efferdine. He's so big on salt.
Vertical diet.
Yeah, vertical diet. For those guys that, you know, he's strongman, Thor, or whoever he does, you know, they'll always add salt to their water.
Yeah.
Because they're just sweating out. So they're sweating just sitting down. They're sweating all the time.
It's gross. Yeah.
So yeah, just horrible, yeah. So they're eating, just red meat, rice, tomatoes, like basically that. And then salt in their water, keeping hydrated.
Yeah. And that's it. I think, you know, people go to creatine, oh, wow, it makes such a big effect. But actually, you know, if you just take like half a teaspoon of salt pre-workout with some water, same effect.
Yeah.
You feel great.
Yeah.
Your endurance improves.
Yeah, you can hold on to water more. Yeah.
Yeah, you feel stronger, you feel great.
Yeah.
Because most of the time you're just dehydrated.
Yeah.
And again, the main reason why like people always crave carbohydrates and like stuff like that, because they're dehydrated. There's carbohydrate. They want that because it's either water or I'm going to eat the carbohydrates. And if they're not drunk the water, they just want carbs.
Yeah. Well, I think even for people that when they're overweight, you know, they're often going for food when they're actually just thirsty.
Yeah.
And they don't drink. So like, I think that's a good thing to start with. Like you were saying, you just say, right, before each meal, drink some water or make sure you're getting this amount per day.
For me, I just work on
actually eat less. Yeah.
Firstly, like with anything with coaching, it's awareness.
Yeah.
So get them to see how much water they're actually, you know, track just water intake. You know, whereas how many bottles I drank today, you know, which is the simplest thing. Like, how many bottles did you drink today? Have a bottle and then see how many times you drink it in that day. And like, just see, and they're like, oh, I only have a 330, you know, the little bottles. I drank 4 of them today. Like, oh,
it's not much. Yeah.
That's not a lot. You know, and I focus on that first more than anything with nutrition. I think, you know, going back to this whole principle, this episode is like keeping it simple. Is like, whether it's nutrition, start with water, then focus on protein. If you can get past those 2 hurdles, then start looking at other things, looking at macros, looking at, you know, even just carbs and fats, which whatever preference you have towards eating more fat or more carbs. I find it's more of an individual preference. You know, with people most of the time. So but because again, you'll be able to know if you actually prefer one or the other once you're hydrating, have enough protein, because
Yeah.
protein is the most satiating
You're
thing.
at a good base there.
You've got a good foundations. And
Yeah.
then you can work on all the other small things and
Yeah.
macronutrients, micronutrients, all these other things later on down the line. But until then, even athletes, and I'm working with a footballer, and and other athletes I've worked with in the past, they can't even get those basics under control.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for most people, they just focus on hydration and protein probably forever. That's just going to be the thing
That's it.
they
And you'll stay in good shape.
Yeah.
You'll get in good shape. Sure, you're not going to be a bodybuilder,
No.
but you're not going to be obese and fat.
Yeah.
If you eat enough protein, you won't crave other foods.
Yeah.
You won't crave as much sugars, and especially like salt is the opposite of sugar. So if you adequately have enough salt in your diet or electrolytes, you won't crave sugar, because salt and sugar are like the total opposite. Salt is actually very good. Whether it's Himalayan salt or colored salt, it's very anti-inflammatory, whereas sugar is pro-inflammatory. Salt, you store water intracellularly. Sugar, you store it extracellularly.
Yeah.
So that's why you get bloated and soft and inflamed like that. With salt, you store it in the cells. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and then, with protein, it's very satiating, but also like how you start the day. Get protein in, because then you won't crave all this other stuff a lot of the time. So, and then, going back to, even the heat and cold exposure, just start. You don't have to go to extremes. Just start simple. Put a foot in. Stand. It's up to your legs. Just put your legs in. Stand up to your waist in water.
Let's talk about weightlifting in terms of keeping it simple.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty big one.
Well, I mean, look, we both know, don't we? I mean, look, from how it's taught in the UK, from different associations and courses, and it's massively overcomplicated.
Yeah,
massively overcomplicated. There's like a 300-page book about it.
Yeah.
That, people on a certain course have to study.
Yeah. They don't have that book in Russia.
No, I've told you my experiences when I was in Iran and Kazakhstan, and it's basically pull, jump, sit, stand. That's it.
Done. Yeah.
That's
it. Pretty much what it is. Yeah.
And then, okay, maybe keep it close.
Yeah. But that comes later.
That's coming later.
The first bit. Yeah. Yeah. When I dabbled in it for a couple of years, and I just taught myself, just watch YouTube videos, watch people do weightlifting. And,
I think people make it to be a really complex thing, but if you break it down first and you learn, you teach someone, or you already know how to do, and even better, if you're really strong at those exercises, if you already know how to do a deadlift, you know how to jump, you know how to squat, and you can overhead press,
you can hold a weight overhead, basically. Yeah,
you can. It's not rocket science. Just join the dots.
Yeah, connect it. How are you
it's
gonna get
just
over
join
there?
the dots.
Yeah,
and like initially, like with anything coaching, most exercises or movements initially, I start with isometrics, start with pauses, add lots of pauses in.
Yeah.
Hold,
snatch,
Yeah, just hold in all the critical positions, off the floor, below the knee, above the knee,
hip,
And then you just start, right, we start with 5-second pauses. Then it's like 2-second pauses next time. 1 second pause. Okay. Now, no pauses, but we're going to go very slowly. You're going to do that whole movement over 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8. So they're going like slow motion through those points now. And then you go to 5 seconds. And then you just do it faster and faster and faster.
Yeah. I remember when I went to St. Mary's, Dan Clever, he did the most simple snatch lesson ever. There's probably 50 of us, 40 of us in a room. Some had bars, some had sticks, just whatever you could grab. Everyone stood there. He goes, right, stand with the bar in your hips.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone did it. All right, put it overhead. All right, press it overhead 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Right, back down to your hips. Okay, do 5 RDLs.
Yeah, to the knee.
To the knee. Right, now go down to an RDL, jump, and catch it in the position overhead.
Yeah.
Because you have to then, because you can't jump. You made us keep our legs straight.
Yeah.
And you can't jump like that.
No.
So it was a constraints-based approach. You had to then kind of pull up and bend your knees and jump.
Yeah.
And everyone was doing a hang snatch within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He didn't give any more instruction than that.
Simple.
Super basic. And obviously, look, if you're training to be a weightlifter, that's not how you're going to do it forever.
Yeah.
But for most people that want to learn how to do it, If you're doing CrossFit, you're doing something, you can learn so quickly.
This is it. It's like the constraints. That's a really good point. You know, like I've never called it that before, but like with lifters who used to, and even myself, like if I ever used to jump backwards when on the catch, so I used to just say, right. So I used to get them to stand on the edge of the platform, with a drop
approach. That's it. Yeah.
So I said, like, if you jump backwards, you're going to fall off the platform. And they're like, and it just cuts it out immediately.
Yeah.
I didn't strengthen anything. I didn't stretch anything. Yeah. I just said, right, I didn't coach anything. I said, right, you're going to stand on the edge.
Well, that is coaching.
I know,
it is.
But it's like, stand there and do the same thing.
Yeah.
And they didn't jump backwards.
And it works. Yeah. Or you can do something else. You say, all right, jump forwards. And they don't jump forwards. They just stay on the same point. Yeah. There's like loads of ways you can go around it, but it's usually simple stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That tends to work. Yeah.
And that's it. Like, because you go back, it's down to first principles. Like the body always wants to protect itself.
Yeah.
It's like human. It's like in your nature, any animal nature. It's like it's all about protecting oneself. That's why even flexibility is all the protective reflex. It doesn't want you to go any further because it doesn't have any strength either antagonistically or agonistically.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm not going to let you go there. Yeah. It's all governed by the nervous system. The nervous system's like, it can sense there's the edge there. Yeah. I know the edge is there.
Yeah.
So subconsciously, it will not allow you to go back off that edge.
Yeah.
It would rather you fail the lift.
Yeah.
Than you jump off.
You jump back. Yeah. 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 Constraints is such a good way to get people to do something.
Fear
that you want. Fear. Add fear to the.
Fear is the biggest driver.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that's it. If you fall off that was the same thing. It's like constraints. It's fear. You're putting fear in someone.
Yeah.
So like I've been jumping back all these other repetitions. If I jump back now, I could twist my ankle, I could break my back, I could twist my neck, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
I could look like an idiot in front of my friends.
Yeah.
It's fear.
Yeah. Humiliation.
Fear is the biggest driver for humans. But most people just avoid it or they don't want it. It's the best thing to motivate you.
Yeah.
Fear.
That's why we're here.
Oh, that's exactly why we're here. We were driven by fear.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think with all of it, I think we just need to, with all the morning routines, that's another whole thing. But just relax a little bit.
Strip back.
Take away. It's just simplify everything. Don't force too much stuff. Whether it's with programs and forcing too much weight too soon on the bar, trying to cut too many calories too soon or put in too many calories too soon. Don't go to extremes. I know some people I'm a very, I used to be especially very extreme person, just do things but you pay the consequences later for these things.
Yeah.
And
it's finite. Yeah.
Whether it's with steroids, you put that and you increase your strength really quickly. It feels great. You're doing great at the time. It feels great. You feel superhuman. You're going to pay for it later.
Yeah.
Whether it's your tendons, you're going to tear a muscle because the tendons haven't caught up with the muscles yet. Or, it's your health wise, I always feel like, if you're not striving for extreme performance, if you are, that's fine. That's your choice. You're doing that. But you just there's always consequences. But if you're not, just take things a bit slower. Don't do extremes. When you feel like you want to get out, get out. Yeah, sure. It's not abiding by this mindset of, you've got to grind, you've got to push, you've got to do everything every day, max and extreme. But you know what? The Russians have a principle as well in the East and in China as well of, in training they call it not training on the nerve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like if your maximum is 10 reps of with 100 kilos on a squat, for instance, that's the maximum. That was like that 10th rep, you were like grinding and
you could not do an 11th. Yeah.
They say, so when you go to train, so that's like your maximum. That's what the most you could demonstrate at that point. That's to your absolute failure. So when you train, you're just going to do a third of that. You're going to do 3 reps.
Yeah. You
just practice
to 2/3.
Practice. So when you come into training, you're not, panicking or worrying about, oh my God, I've got to get another rep today, or I've got to do 11 reps.
That's how they do a lot of their training. It's not hyping up. It's not this more American style.
It's calm.
Going crazy. They just go in, do the lifts, they relax.
It's calm. They don't psych themselves up. Same in China as well. They're not going in like in the Shaolin temple, but when they have to perform, they save all this energy and all that nervous energy for when they need to perform for that one day. And it's like, if you read any of like Pavel Sassoon and stuff, the military, he worked, he did a lot of stuff with the US military as well. And he introduced the strong first principles and all of his systems, because they're basically Russian systems. Because it's like, you don't want to go to failure. Imagine you're in the military and you're just done a max out session, and then you get that call.
Yeah, like we were saying earlier.
And you're absolutely screwed. That could be in your life.
Yeah.
That means you could be dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's the consequences. And you see it with animals. If they don't have to push, they're not going to push to the extreme, because they might have to go hunt the next day.
They'll do they'll do the minimum of what they can do. Yeah.
Because they know they have to go hunt again tomorrow. They know they're going to have to go hunt again the next day.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like manual laborers.
Yeah.
You know, the first time you get a mate, I remember doing a furniture removal job one summer. It was absolutely brutal. And I remember the first week just being absolutely crippled. First day you feel great, second day you're tired, third day you're like, fourth, fifth day you're just so tired and your body's ruined. Carrying furniture, moving things around, all this type of stuff. You know, compared to then 3-4 weeks later,
you're fine.
You just get used to it. You adapt.
I painted roofs one summer.
Yeah.
Industrial roofs. And you're just constantly bent over.
Your back was broken.
My back was gone.
Yeah.
And my knees, because you have to kneel down and do all this stuff. So nothing's heavy.
Yeah.
You're just holding basically a hip hinge for like 8 hours. So your back is gone. But
that's the process. It's lots of sub-maximal work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's a gradual, slow process. So you gradually, whereas the others is like, you push to extreme, get fast gains and everything else, but you build it fast, but you can lose it quick. With this other, it's sub-maximal. It's like dad strength. You know, when you shake like a carpenter's hand or
farmer strength,
it's
just
just ridiculous.
Yeah,
they built that up over 30 years, just doing lots of sub-maximal work.
Slow build.
It's not their max, but they're doing lots of sub-maximal, like around that 30-50%. They're just doing loads of repetitions, like in Iran as well. Like all that stuff is not heavy. They use hundreds of repetitions. And like I remember shaking them when I was in Iran. The Zirconate guy, it was their form of how they used to train the warriors, the Persian army, and all this stuff. Like with all the clubs and the meals and the shinas, the boars, and the sangs, which are the shields. They're basically just doors like that with a handle in the middle.
Yeah.
Like 80-kilo doors of wood. You have to press. And like, I remember this guy was 60. He must have been in his mid-60s. The guy who was the kind of top guy there. And I remember shaking his hand, and it was the strongest handshake ever. Like my hand just like melted.
You feel like a little boy.
And they use like 4-kilo clubs, but they're doing thousands of repetitions.
Yeah.
For hours. They're training for hours.
Yeah.
It's just sub-maximal, high volume. It's like the total opposite to Western approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is all high intensity, everything else. But this is like all low intensity, sub-maximal. But they're not drinking shots of caffeine and pre-workouts for it. They just go in, they just train for 2 hours, hour of warming up, hour of training, they go home.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's very relaxed and casual. Not casual, sorry, that's the wrong word. It's very strict and like, done, but it's all just in a calm state.
Yeah.
And they're not trying to go to extremes in anything. And they use that as their health system.
Yeah.
So in Iran, like if you want to get in shape, you do Zirconate.
Yeah.
If you've got a bit of weight to lose, you've got a bit of a tummy from too much rice and stuff, then you go
go throw some clubs around.
Yeah. And like these guys are in their 60s, 70s, and they're still moving like unbelievable. Strong as an ox.
Yeah. But they've been doing it for so long, and they didn't stop.
Because it's manageable.
Yeah.
They can do it because it's not extreme. It's not maximal stuff.
It's not. It's like, think of like, it's not an equivalent, but okay, you want to get into fitness. You're 50. You can't go into CrossFit. You'll die.
Yeah.
But they have some system there where it's slow. You build.
Yeah.
You start with the 2-kilo club. You just do it. I guess in the West, what would the equivalent be? Aerobics, step class.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean,
does it even exist?
I don't know. Yeah, because I mean, again, the problem with CrossFit and all of these things, they're sports at the end of the day.
Yeah. And
there's competition, which then people push to extremes because they want to beat everyone else. They want to, whatever it is. So competition then and extremes generally lead to injuries because you do something stupid, or you cheat on your technique slightly, or whatever. You cut the range short, or you do something like this to get those extra reps or get the time or whatever it is. So, it's a big difference between, like in the East, they talk about like, demonstrating strength and then building strength. There's two different things. This building is a lot slower process, like building a house or building a building. It takes a long time, it takes years, whereas demonstration is like peaking. You know, I want to show stuff. I want to show what I can lift straight away. Even how you do exercises is so like with squats, for instance. Okay, say you're doing a back squat. I think I told you maybe once before that. It's like, you know, when you see people, they say they've got 5 reps on their program, they do 1 rep and they rest, they take a couple of breaths at the top and they do another. So basically doing like 5 singles.
Little cluster set. Yeah.
Yeah, you're basically doing 5 singles. When they do a rep, they rest, they're basically resting because your muscles aren't, this is your spine's working, whatever. But you're basically, but compared to doing like super slow, like real tempo on the eccentric, isometric, concentric, so slow, you're not fully extending the knees. You can't use anywhere near as much weight.
Yeah, keeping the tension on the whole way.
But you're building all the metabolic pathways. You're building neural. Just being able to keep control of the joints, and that actually essentially becomes like rehab. Whereas physio exercises mostly start like that, super slow, isometrics. That's what most people have to build. But then they don't do that. Problem with physio, then they take that to bigger exercises or lifts. It's always just like isolation movements. But if you do like super slow pauses into like a back squat, you probably only be able to use like 50 kilos, 40 kilos at max, and time under tension and all this stuff. But you look at like, that's where you need to begin. You look at like Klokov, so when he's on his seminars, when he used to teach weightlifting, he'll get people doing 20-second lowerings on their snatch.
And
then 20 seconds to lift
people are shaking.
And they're shaking because it's slow. The muscles have to work so hard. So you start slow and then you go fast. But I think again for health, it's better you got to go slower. Because again, when you start moving fast, there's more weight. You're probably compensating somewhere. You're not as you're going to be compensating somewhere. Joints are going to get hammered a little bit more. So there's always a payoff. But you need to practice the skills of jumping if you want to keep the skills of jumping. If you want to be able to sprint when you're 70 years old, you've got to keep sprinting. So there's always that as well, and
you just cycle all these things out through the year, through your training.
And then you're not always doing the same thing. Like one of my mentors, Tommy, he's big on seasonal periodization. So he would do certain types of strength or certain movements or certain equipment at different times of the year and cycle them in and out. So you're not always doing barbells all the time. He's using kettlebells, and he's using dumbbells, and he's using...
I think the seasons, it's still relevant. It's still relevant. Even if you just look at, if you look at a year of your life, like what happens from January to December. In the summer, you might go on holiday. It might be Ramadan, like it is now. Things change.
Like, when the weather's nice, you want to get outside.
You want to go out to train outside.
You want to go for a run, maybe. You want to go do some calisthenics in the park because the weather's amazing. You
don't have to be stuck in the gym doing your
in the winter when it's got, you go in the gym maybe, or it's raining and, So again, like you're just more inclined to do certain things at certain times of the year. Like you think back to school days, in the summer we do more track and field. That's the natural season.
Play some rounders, get outside,
play cricket, like all this sort of stuff or whatever. Like it's just natural kind of seasons to movement and energy as well.
I think that's a simple thing to follow. You just go with what's going on.
If you want to go outside, I think, and you know what happens, I think, is people often start there unconsciously incompetent. They don't realize, and they naturally just do what they want anyway. I feel like going for a run today. I feel like doing this today, and then they start getting interested in it, or they pick up an injury, or sometimes even with one of us, a personal trainer, and we start to overcomplicate things.
Definitely,
and we make them too aware, and they become consciously incompetent. They're like, I can't. They're thinking about, I should do this. I've been through that. I need to do this now. I should do this. It's like, actually, just do what you enjoy. At the end of it, if you're training for health, again, we talked about when we started this episode, like minimizing stress. Like, do the type of exercises that causes the least amount of resistance mentally, so that you're going to do it. If you love yoga, do yoga.
If you can go and play paddle.
If you love sprinting, sprint. If you don't love sprinting, you think sprinting is annoying or you hate it. It's like me with like long distance running. I don't enjoy it. But I don't mind sprinting.
Some people love it.
And for me, my favorite type of conditioning is actually playing sports. I'd rather just play sports. Rather than doing a conditioning session. Which I just don't enjoy. But I like lifting weights. So again, going back, we already have enough stress in our lives and everything going on. Why add more to it? Why do stuff that you don't enjoy? You look at all the blue zone people. There's guys who smoke still. 100 or 110, they're still smoking.
Still chilling.
Still drinking. They're still eating ice cream.
They're happy.
But they're happy.
They're not stressed.
They do the things they like.
And
And they do more of that. They do things when they want to do it. They do things what they like. They They don't do things they don't want to do. You know, if they want to spend more time, you know, the social thing is a big thing. So
yeah, you can probably learn from that in in a Western, fast-paced world. You might be doing a lot of stuff during the day at work.
You don't like.
You don't
like your job. You don't like your boss. You don't like all this
Yeah.
stuff. So then, when you come to your training, do things that you enjoy.
Do things you enjoy.
At least,
Yeah.
At least do that.
Find something you like outside. Yeah.
Because otherwise, then what's
Have
the point?
hobbies, do things. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Always go back to why. Everything. I think it's a good point to end that one.
And good.
Well, thanks for joining us on this show on Keeping It Simple. Todd is out of here already.
We're done.
But we'll see you next time.